All right. Welcome to episode 2 of the Cinephile Mind. I'm Spenser, along with my co-hosts, Miguel and Nick. Our first episode was more of an introduction into what Cinephile Mind means to each of us, as well as a very brief discussion of some of our favorites all time, some of our guilty pleasures. Today we have more of a focused discussion. We'll spend some time going through Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography. Appropriate timing, given that he will likely be a potential directing favorite heading into award season, obviously with the release of One Battle After Another. He is, without question, one of the very best directors working today, and has made some of our favorite movies. So we thought it was an appropriate topic of discussion for one of our early episodes to kind of go through his filmography and give our own personal ranking, as well as kind of a breakdown and discussion of each of those films. So there are 10 films in total that we will talk about. Our plan is to structure the discussion based on the release date. So we'll be going in chronological order, starting with his first film and then going from there. We'll open with a brief synopsis of the film for those who haven't seen it. Obviously, we're going to be spoiling a lot in this discussion as well. So just be aware of that. So we'll have a brief discussion about the movie and then each say where this film ranks in our personal list of PTA's rankings. Speaking of rankings, one thing that Nick and I were chatting about before you joined, Miguel, too, and that I wanted to say is these rankings are fluid. Obviously, this is a point in time in which we feel, how these rankings fall. They are always subject to change based on, when they're viewed. I think a lot of these films, almost demand multiple viewings in order to truly appreciate. And I think, the phase of life that you're at, the feelings that they evoke based on those phases will influence how these rankings fall. I don't know about you guys. I really enjoyed going back and revisiting a lot of these. There was a couple that I had not seen, so I viewed for the very first time. But it was a really fun exercise and a perfect way to spend some time having had a couple week break from work as well.
Yeah, it really was the perfect activity between the Christmas and New Year's Eve, week where, I had nothing to do.
Yep.
We're off of work. So, yeah, I definitely enjoyed my time going through his filmography.
Yeah, I kind of, as I was watching the movies, I really wanted, I don't know, it was like I wanted it to also be something that I could have watched on the big screen because they were just so
Yep.
great and immersive. Obviously I watched on like my TV or whatever, but as I was watching it, I'm just like, I hope that whatever theater does, especially the Alamo, probably does PTA retrospective as well, because I would love to watch some of these on the big screen since I hadn't seen a lot of them.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of these the experience is obviously enhanced if you get to see them in the theater, and there are very few that I actually got to see in the theater. So, these are all actually very good movies too. I think, obviously we'll have our least favorites, when we're specifically talking about PTA's filmography, but I found it, for the most part, it was pretty difficult task to rank these. I think for me, there's like obvious tops and bottoms, but like those like middles they're hard because these are all pretty good movies.
Yeah, I think for the first time when putting together a ranking, it's actually perfect that he has 10 feature films. So we could, easily create a top 10.
He obviously has his own flair and like themes that may appear across many or all of them, but it is still comparing like somewhat apples to oranges even between some of his films. So yeah, it is tough to rank, but
Hard Eight,
Hard Eight.
1996. So, synopsis of this one is veteran gambler Sydney befriends a young man named John, transforming into a Las Vegas casino champion. John falls for a prostitute, and the couple soon finds themselves in need of Sydney's help. I will admit, I saw this movie for the first time several years ago. I did not rewatch it, so it has been a long time since I've seen it. When I watched it, I did enjoy it a lot. But for me, obviously, this PTA made this when he was in like his early 20s, which is a remarkable work for a first film, first full feature length film. I would be surprised if any of you guys have this any higher than 10. I feel like, to me, it's like at the bottom when we look at his overall filmography. And going forward, I will say I'm not going to say the ranking right off the bat. I'm just this is just how I'm kicking this one off. But I will save the ranking for the others at the end of the discussion. But I just wanted to make that point because I feel like as an artist, this is probably how it should be. Like, this is how you would want. You probably don't want your first work to be considered your very best, especially considering the number of films he's gone on to release. I think it's very clear he's evolved a ton as a filmmaker. But that being said, I think it's a very good movie. I would be interested to hear you guys' thoughts on it. But spoiler, I do have this as 10 for him.
It's actually top 3 for me.
Wow.
No,
okay.
But no, like you said, we're not gonna say our ranking until the very end of our analysis for each movie. But yes, I agree. It is also number 10 for me. Simply because it was just to me, it was just very apparent that he was holding back on his more like eccentric like tendencies from like
you saw glimpses of like you
yes.
know kind of like his style, which is like more evolved in the next few, but
oh, for sure, yeah. Like from a stylistic like point of view, like having viewed obviously his later films, like he's exercising, I thought, like a lot of restraint with this film, not allowing himself to go big yet, with either style or emotion, which also kind of limits how deeply the film landed for me specifically.
I wonder, and I wonder if that's like a result of him being like so young, and like maybe was there an element of like discomfort because he's working with like pretty proven actors like this. It's a relatively stacked cast with Philip Baker Hall, John C. Reilly, Gwyneth Paltrow. Like, as a mid-20s guy, like how I just wonder if that had any sort of effect on, like you said, like he's not being as experimental or bold as he gets in some of his later movies.
Oh, for sure. And I was thinking that another reason for it could potentially be like, working, like being hired as a director for this movie, even though it is his own movie, but he's working with a studio that would have more say on like, his artistic direction for the movie. I feel like that could also have been played a part.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we also have to mention 2 short films that he worked on prior to Hard Eight, which were the Dirk Diggler story that went on to inspire Boogie Nights, and then Cigarettes and Coffee, which kind of spawned Hard Eight. I watched both of those shorts on YouTube in the worst quality. It seemed like it was like scans of the film. So really low resolution, poor quality videos on YouTube of those 2 short films. But I I don't know if the short film Cigarettes and Coffee that again inspired Heart Eight maybe influenced my rating or like perception of the movie, but I kind of enjoyed it. I think the short film kind of had some more interesting ideas and elements that maybe were kind of fell by the wayside in the actual feature film. But I think Sydney, Philip Baker Hall's character, is probably the most interesting part of it, and just sort of his like rules and pragmatism and um, kind of just his dark past, but how that's kind of contradictory to just how he kind of conducts himself around the other characters. So I actually gave it an 8, a hard 8.
Speaking of Philip Baker Hall, I thought he was the clear standout for me, for sure. He elevated the film, giving it its soul, really. Uh, with I thought with like each scene, like you learn more about his character without like him verbally really saying anything about like who he is, and like while you're not really sure why he's doing what he's doing, his performance gives you like the sense that he's righting a wrong, and perhaps like a past regret, which is later confirmed in the movie. uh but it also must be said that Gwyneth Paltrow, I thought, was terribly miscast in the movie. uh she definitely played against type here, but it just didn't work for me, as much as you see her trying in the most like dramatic scenes later in the film, playing prostitute. I didn't think it worked and landed
Hmm.
for me, even though this was just like a year or two away from her Oscar win with Shakespeare in Love, and even a couple years away from her work and great work in Talented Mr. Ripley. I She just was not right for this role, in my opinion. I wonder what you guys think.
I think subconsciously I was thinking that throughout the film. I don't know that I like that came to my mind immediately when I was watching it, but I mean, as you're saying it, it does. I mean, even the pairing of like John C. Riley and Gwyneth Paltrow seems
Yeah.
odd in hindsight,
Yeah.
especially. But yeah, um, definitely Philip Baker Hall stole the show, and I think I did watch an analysis about the movie after, and it did kind of describe him like caring less about like the morality of things, right? And like obviously he's trying to make amends with John C. Riley's character, but it's also more important for him to kind of have these like specific like rules and this level of respect and things. And I feel like that just is so clear throughout the whole film. And an interesting scene, and probably one of my favorites, was early on when they get in the car and they're driving to Vegas, and John C. Riley's character asks for a cigarette, and then when he realizes that Sydney's character only has matches instead of a lighter, he won't light his cigarette. And I felt like that was kind of an interesting way to like show these characters relating to one another and having like their own specific set of rules and like way of going about behaving in the world. Because it kind of it seemed to like confuse Sydney why he wouldn't use matches, but then again, you kind of see that same behavior and like very strict set of sequence of things from Sydney's character in other scenarios. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting little sequence to play out.
In the 10 films of PTA, where does this one rank for you guys?
It's a 10 for me.
It's number 10.
A respectful 10.
Same. I agree. That's where I have it on my list as well.
I do have it at 8. And again, I wanted to view it separately from the short film, so I don't know how much the short influenced it for me, but I did enjoy the short film quite a bit. So I think maybe just knowing that uh, how I saw those characters kind of play out and that story play out maybe influenced the feature for me. But yeah.
Well, we definitely got to check that out then. But you know what? I mean, like, I think for me, my my 8 to 10 films are pretty interchangeable. And I think at one point, I think this past weekend, that I did have this as number 8, as much as I wanted to also be like hard 8. But I ended up ultimately just, made it 10 because it was the less PTA feeling film of
Yeah.
like the 10 films that we have here. But I do feel like the bottom 3 for me are kind of like, in the same level.
Yep. I agree with that. His second feature film, 1997's Boogie Nights. So, synopsis for this one: in the San Fernando Valley in 1977, teenage busboy Eddie Adams gets discovered by porn director Jack Horner, who transforms him into adult film sensation Dirk Diggler. Brought into a supportive circle of friends, including fellow actors, Dirk fulfills all his ambitions, but a toxic combination of drugs and egotism threatens to take him back down. I love this movie. This is like one of those ones, sort of like in the Magnolia vein, where I watched it kind of when I was early on in my like cinephile journey, and I was trying to discover all these films, and this one just made a huge impression on me. I get so much enjoyment out of it every time I rewatch it. Yeah, it's just fun and dark and funny, amazingly stacked cast. Like, I think it's just like you could sort of see the flashes of brilliance that he had in Hard Eight just start to like he improves upon those with this one. I don't know if I have many weak points to call out for this one, other than maybe its length, because it is a little long. But yeah, curious to hear what you guys think of this one.
One thing on this one is, and I mentioned the 2 short films. I think for me, this one took the ideas of the Dirk Diggler story short film and just ran with them in such a big and awesome way. Whereas I think maybe Hard Eight had the opposite problem, where the short was probably stronger than the feature film. But I agree. I mean, I think it just takes like that era and time and like the fashion and music and everything. And it's like poking at some of the absurdity of things. And one of the things that just jumped out to me as I was watching it was the character of Roller Girl, and just that she's always wearing her roller skates. Yeah. And I think it's like one of those funny things that as you see it play out in the film, it doesn't even become a question of like, oh, that's so still funny and weird that she's wearing them. It just is part of that character. But obviously in the whole like scheme of things, it's one of the most absurd things for this character to never take off her roller skates. But I feel like, again, that just is like the whole film.
It works.
Yeah. I rewatched it a couple days ago, and I was just like floored how much like I love this movie. And I feel like this is the movie where PTA really announces himself to the world that his talent is up there with the new wave of great filmmakers from the 90s that debuted in the 90s along with Tarantino and Fincher. Mm-hmm. So this movie is directed with, I thought, with so much confidence, and miles away from his first film. He's so great with like world building, and the world he built in this movie, like the porn industry in the 1970s San Fernando Valley, was just so incredible. And that cast,
yeah, and there's so many like amazing tense moments in this film. Like but this movie has one of my favorite ever scenes. When they're going into the house of the dealer. I think Alfred Molina is playing like the dealer, and it's so chaotic. But you've got the like Chinese guy like throwing the noisemakers everywhere and popping them off, and the music is playing really loud, and they're just so tense. They're just there to like try to get these drugs and get a fix, and it's like the use of music and everything in that scene. It's so well done.
I love that scene too. And one thing that I don't know how subtle it was supposed to be, but that jumped out was as the kid was throwing the firecrackers, that Alfred Molina's character doesn't flinch at all, while the others are like freaking out at each time. And I just feel like that's so like just perfectly encapsulating that environment. and the chaos, but like, yeah, just kind of that embrace of it. So that was definitely one of my favorite scenes from the movie.
Yeah, and I mean and Burt Reynolds in this movie as well is just incredible. I want to say I had read at some point that um Burt Reynolds didn't like this movie and didn't I think
Regretted it. I think I
yeah,
heard the
he
same thing.
regretted it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like
which is crazy
just
because it is such a strong performance from even him. And I think maybe unlike what we talked about with Heart Eight, I didn't feel like any of these characters felt miscast. It just felt like they were
no.
all exactly who they needed to be. I think another moment and character that um, I loved was Don Cheadle, who plays Buck in the donut shop. That was, I think those are the two top scenes for me. And just that whole sequence of the other characters being shot and killed, and then him kind of grabbing up that cash. And then you later see him open his dream hi-fi stereo shop. I think that was just so um, visceral. You know, he's wearing the white suit, it gets splattered with the blood. It's like there's so many like
Yeah.
perfect takeaways from that scene that it's just movie magic.
Yeah, one thing that just came to mind, like just talking about the Burt Reynolds thing. I think also there was, I think he and PTA sort of clashed a little bit. Like there was a little bit of disagreement over, certain things. And, I wonder if this is sort of where PTA really started to get his like confidence as a director. Like if he's going up against Burt Reynolds, who is a legend, and who is disagreeing with him, like I think he's really very clearly, like you said, Miguel, he announced himself as like one of the premier directors with that. There's stacked cast, a lot of egos to deal with and manage when you're working on something like this, and it's just so masterfully done.
I'm pretty sure he regrets not having a great relationship with PTA now.
Oh yeah,
he could have been one of those like regular Paul Thomas Anderson cast
right.
members. Exactly. I mean, Burt Reynolds and of course Julianne Moore. Their performances just stood out for me. Like Julianne Moore, her character, her performance, I just thought was so lived in and so belongs like in that era. Like I thought it was one of the greatest performances in a career full of great performances from her. So, and looking at like the Academy Awards, this is actually the first Paul Thomas Anderson film that garnered some nominations that that the Academy finally took notice. It was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. For Paul Thomas Anderson was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, as well as Best Supporting Actress for Julianne Moore and Best Supporting Actor for Burt Reynolds.
Wow. So he was even nominated for this movie.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. One other thing about this is I typically don't. I've never really been the biggest fan of Mark Wahlberg. But I mean, I think he shines in this movie. Obviously, he's pretty much a perfect fit for it.
I was wondering who was going to say something about Mark Wahlberg because
Yeah.
I felt like I read somewhere, and I have to like double check this, but that wasn't Leo DiCaprio supposed to like play this role?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think he would have been. It was in consideration for it, but he did Titanic instead, right? I want to say that that's kind of the story.
Yeah.
Worked out.
Worked out for everyone.
Yeah.
No, but speaking of Mark Wahlberg, though, yes, he was less, for lack of a better word, annoying.
Yeah.
In this movie, I feel like the role itself just fits him of who he is.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, as far as where this falls in my ranking for PTA, I have this at number 3. It is one of my favorites.
I have it at 4. But I will say, and we'll get to my 5 later, I kind of had those interchangeable.
I have it at number 3 as well, and I think it could be interchangeable with the number 2 movie as well. It depends, like when you ask me.
Yep.
I just I think similar to the number 2 movie. It's it's emotional, but also very accessible, and it's not overly stylistic as his other films, and could be enjoyed by casual film audiences, but also top notch filmmaking. So I love everything
All
about
right.
Boogie Nights.
So far, Miguel, you and I's rankings are a
The same.
match. 10 and 3. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
His third film, Magnolia, 1999. Synopsis for this one: on one random day in the San Fernando Valley, a dying father, a young wife, a male caretaker, a famous lost son, a police officer in love, a boy genius, an ex-boy genius, a game show host, and an estranged daughter will each become part of a dazzling multiplicity of plots, but one story. Obviously, I think it's no secret where this one will fall on my list. It is, as I mentioned in the last episode, my all-time favorite movie. And ever since I saw it, it was number one for me. It's stayed there. It, for me personally, is the type of film I love. It's a sweeping drama. We get into the personal lives of all these different characters. They're all sort of pathetic in some way, but you come to feel so much for these people. And it's all, kind of all, it starts out as everything's unrelated, but ties together at the end, in this very kind of, I guess, epic finale. Another thing I love about this movie is just the weirdness of it. Like from like a filmmaking perspective, I feel like he made some very, very bold choices. And there are just weird things in this movie that to me just like really, it worked for me. I could see it like, and for some people potentially putting people off. For example, like the use of the song in the middle of the film where like that song starts playing and all the characters are like singing the song and it's like cutting to each person singing it. um just a weird moment in the middle of the movie, and then obviously, of course, the end with the frogs falling from the sky. I was so sucked into the complete strangeness of uh this film, but like to me it's just like it's so emotional, and it's just the type of movie I love.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair to say of the features that we've been talking about so far, and chronologically, this is probably the first one where you kind of want to take that step back and evaluate and analyze some of the deeper meaning of some of the decisions that were made and why certain things played out and how all the characters are connected. Um, yeah, I really loved it too. Um, I think that final scene with Tom Cruise's character and his father and saying "I won't cry
Oh yeah.
over you" is obviously one of the most emotionally conveyed things ever in a film. So I loved it.
No, I know. To me, yeah. I Spencer, I know you love this movie. But yeah, it's always been uneven for me, and
Hmm.
but it's one of those movies I admire more than I love. But it still hits me like emotionally every time. Uh, like Paul Thomas Anderson like throws everything into it. Really, some of some of it works beautifully, I thought, and some of it definitely, to me, it didn't. But what I respect about Magnolia is how emotionally honest it is, and I feel like it is one of his more ambitious films up to that point in his career. The themes he explores in this movie are some of the most complex he's tackled in his career. Um, and I admire, I admire that about the film. And obviously Tom Cruise,
Yeah.
probably my favorite performance from Tom Cruise, besides Jerry Maguire. But this is just like you kind of ask like why hasn't he worked with PTA since, because
Yeah.
it's been almost like what 30 years since, no, or 25 years
25.
since,
Yeah.
since this film, and he hasn't really had another performance like this great since.
I totally agree. It's my favorite Tom Cruise performance, and yeah, that bedside scene with his dad is so moving. Um, and like your points are so well stated. I totally get how you could be a big admirer of this film, but not necessarily love it or find flaws in it. And it certainly is that way. I think it's very difficult to make a over 3 hour film captivating and like make people want to watch it. And I don't know, but every time like I sit down and start this movie, it feels like, oh my God, this is going to be over 3 hours long. There's no way I'm going to watch this whole thing. Like I'm just sucked in, and I feel like it's pretty well paced for a over 3 hour movie. I'm sucked in and watch it till the end.
I also, and obviously I brought up the Tom Cruise kind of bedside scene, but I also would want to give an honorable mention that barring that scene, William H. Macy's performance was also mind blowing, from him in the bar, talking to the bartender, confessing his love, and then falling. That was an incredible performance.
Yeah. Yeah. And the scene where he's saying he has love to give, he just doesn't know where to put it, is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I feel like the common thread there is in Magnolia are all these people who were hurt by their dad.
Yeah.
Like, and pretty much all the people in that child's life that were also affected because of it.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like it deserves another rewatch for me, and I think it's one of those movies that it just gets deeper with each rewatch. So
one other like honorable mention performance for me is John C. Reilly in this movie. He's like his character is so pathetic and just like weak. But I don't know. He's just like, he's so honest and sincere, and when it's just you just get so sad for him, especially when he loses his gun and he's crying and just so embarrassed about being a police officer, loses his gun. I think there's so many performances in this movie that you could like make a case like, wow, that's like the best one in the film. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah, I could spend all day talking about this one, but yes, obviously for me, this is my number one for PTA.
And Philip Baker Hall as well. He was also great in this, and the game show sequences were one of my faves from the movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't spent too much time thinking about all of the connections to that, but obviously that game show is kind of in the backdrop and sort of the glue with a lot of the characters and narrative. And just even thinking about the game of being like win or lose, but then you have the kid kind of saying, I'm not going up there to answer this like last question or like this last moment. And then at the end telling his dad, like, you have to treat me better, kind of, I can't remember exactly how he told him that, but I do feel like a lot of the characters were kind of making that choice of like no longer playing whatever game they were playing before.
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of like with the kid realizing that early on in his life versus William H. Macy later on realizing like, wow, I was, that entire career where I was pushed to do this by my dad really affected me in such a deep way.
Cool. I have the movie at 3 for myself.
Good ranking.
I have the movie at 6.
Next one is a bit of a departure, I would say, for PTA, at least up to this point. We have Punch Drunk Love, 2002. Synopsis: a socially awkward and volatile small business owner meets the love of his life after being threatened by a gang of scammers. I think this is another one that I really love this movie as well. It's very of the films that he's released up to this point, very much against the grain. We see a 90-minute film versus his typical 2.5 hour plus, kind of more epic features up to this point. We also see Adam Sandler cast in, who at this time is, late 90s, early 2000s, known, I would say, almost exclusively as a goofy comedic actor. So it was, he's making another bold choice here by going with Adam Sandler in a more dramatic role. But I love this movie. I think I love Adam Sandler's performance in this. I think he shows his acting chops. But yes, this is another really strong film from his filmography.
I think for me, maybe the shorter runtime and then kind of smaller scale of it. I like to see PTA play in like a bigger arena, and some of his like wilder, more grand ideas playing out. And I think Punch Drunk Love doesn't go as far as some of his other films. So I probably have this lower on my list than maybe at least you, Spenser, but curious about Miguel's thoughts on too.
I really enjoy this movie, and doing a rewatch of it and seeing like a 90-minute runtime, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, breath of fresh air.
I know, especially after Magnolia, 3 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those movies that just gets what it feels like to live inside anxiety. Like PTA doesn't just like tell the story; he builds this entire movie around Adam Sandler's character's Barry's nervous system. So like the colors are loud, the sound design is like stressful, the score.
Yeah, the score is like always there in the
I know.
background, sort of creating a little bit of tension.
Yeah, and Adam Sandler was, kind of incredible here. The same way, like we were talking about, like Mark Wahlberg, and these are two characters that have very limited range, really. But
Mhm.
like PTA just knew that this character was would be perfect for Adam Sandler, and it was. Um, you know, and just seeing like his comedic side, but also like his more like vulnerable side here in this movie was great. And I'm sure like after seeing like Happy Gilmore and Waterboy and all those other movies, it was like a breath of fresh air, really.
Yeah, one thing PTA does really well, I feel like, he's he adapts these. He takes like source material and adapts it in his own way. Like obviously, One Battle After Another is loosely based on a novel. Inherent Vice, loosely based. But I think that part of Barry's character in this movie where he's you know he's like trying to communicate with the, what is it, like Snackwell or Pudding Company about their airline miles deal, and how it's like they're getting ripped off. Like that's like based on a real thing that happened. Some guy figured it out, and I think he just kind of like took that and kind of adapted it into this whole story, which he's just a master at.
I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance is also just, you have to mention him in all of these.
You have to mention him in everything, I feel like.
And I feel like he didn't have a whole lot of screen time, but he used it all.
That's that Mattress Man. Yeah, that's a great reveal when he comes into the movie. Rankings wise in PTA's list, I have this as my number 5.
I have this at 6.
I enjoy this movie a lot, but it's just right below Magnolia for me, number 7.
Next one up on our list, we have There Will Be Blood, 2007. Synopsis here: ruthless silver miner turned oil prospector Daniel Plainview Plainview moves to oil-rich California, using his adopted son HW to project a trustworthy family man image. Plainview cons local landowners into selling him their valuable properties for pittance. However, local preacher Eli Sunday suspects Plainview's motives and intentions, starting a slow-burning feud that threatens both their lives. I rewatched this just a few days ago. It had been a while since I'd seen it, and I think obviously now that we've completed a quarter of this century, we're starting to see these media releases. Their top films of the century so far. This one seems to be a consensus, top 5 in all of those. So it's made a huge impact and did when it came out. This, of course, is also the film Quentin Tarantino referenced when he was making his comments about Paul Dano being a weak actor, which those comments, I think, released the wolves in Dano's favor. But Tarantino had said this would be his number 1 if not for Dano. But that's beside the point. I think this was... For me, this is another one where, like, if I saw it in theaters when it came out in 2007 as an 18-year-old, absolutely did not appreciate it at that time. So it's always fun to go back and rewatch this one. But it is, I think, I don't know what hasn't been said already that you can say here. It's truly one of the best ever made. One thing that stood out to me in this rewatch is that I found myself laughing quite a bit. I think it's funnier than I remember. The interplay between Plainview and Eli is quite hilarious. Like, the scene where Eli goes to Daniel and asks, can I say a blessing at the well for tomorrow's ceremony? And, he's like, yeah, that's fine. But then comes time to it. He brings the girl up. He does the blessing himself. And, I think just I kept laughing at Daniel's seething hatred that is visible on his face anytime Eli enters the scene. I just found that to be so funny. But
I had that
exact
scene with the blessing of that kind of opening ceremony is one of my favorite moments of the movie. I guess I'm curious what you guys are what drove his immediate hatred of that character. Is it that he's demanding something from him and it's getting in the way of his own desires?
Yeah, I think I see it as he's blocking him to achieving, up to that point, he had been pretty successful in, easily conning these people into giving up the land. Mm-hmm. And Eli is just coming at him with a lot more suspicion, and obviously he hates that. I think also the fact that Eli is a very religious person and is active in the church, and obviously that's not something that's important to Daniel, and he keeps getting pulled into that. Some great scenes there. I think he's just the true antagonist to Plainview. And it's just, it's infuriating.
Yeah, I think obviously the kind of opening ceremony scene is interesting. And then another one that jumped out to me that I think also characterizes that attitude that he has is you see that shot kind of afterwards, and he pulls the little girl over, Mary, I think is her name, and he's telling her, don't let your dad hit you. And I don't remember where he had learned that was happening, but he's kind of comforting her and telling her, don't let this happen.
It's HW. Yeah. And then, I think HW tells Daniel that.
Yeah. And then
his dad is hitting her.
Kind of after she runs off, and then it immediately cuts to, you see her father.
They're sitting at the table together. Yeah.
And it's he's only concerned with cutting anyone out of his conquest to achieve his ambitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish I did a rewatch of this movie, because it is one of my favorite films of all time, and that's not secret at all. But it feels like with this one, it feels like something was unearthed rather than like directed or made by PTA. Like telling this story of about ambition and isolation and Daniel Day-Lewis. For me, I think this is just one of the very best performances ever put on screen.
No doubt.
If not the best male
Yep.
performance I've seen. So I wish I had done another rewatch of this so I can talk about specific scenes in this movie. But I knew it was going to be a solid blank ranking for me, so I didn't. But
Yeah.
I did want to call out two other things. One being because I was just curious after watching the opening scene where they're drilling this test well, and I kind of looked at the time on the buffer time, and it was like 15 minutes into the film and still no dialogue. So you're just seeing this whole sequence play out. But it again used every moment of that. It didn't feel like boring or like gratuitous. It was just like so compelling. The other thing worth calling out, which I'm sure is talked about at length, but I think this was his first time working with Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead on the score.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
And I feel like obviously even some of the earlier films that he's worked on, the music is important, but I think this film is the first one where it's like its own character, the music throughout the whole film.
Yes. And he's continued to work with him on every film since. So like they are a pair now. That was the exact point I was going to make was, this was his first collaboration with Johnny Greenwood. And just the way I don't know, he's just like a remarkable and versatile musician. It just elevates the film in so many ways. So I loved getting to rewatch this one. It had been several years since I had revisited it, but
not a second of the film feels wasted. Like every frame feels very intentional. Nothing feels accidental. This is like PTA at his artistic peak, I think, and it's just such confidently directed.
I don't know, just like the set design here and just the scale of everything. It's so impressive and so well done. Like this deserves all the praise that it gets as being one of the best films ever. It notably, obviously, did not win Best Director or Best Picture at the Oscars for that year. That was the No Country for Old Men
year.
Year.
Very tough year.
Which is a great film. I would be curious, it's fun to have these discussions, but I wonder if both of these same films were released today, would we have the same result?
I think at the time that I saw both movies, I think I would have picked in my head. I was No Country for Old Men was the movie I was pulling for. But obviously had so much admiration for There Will Be Blood, but There Will Be Blood really has stayed with me all these years. And it is the movie that really got the Academy to notice Paul Thomas Anderson. With this movie, he received the film received 8 Oscar nominations, so it was across the board very well loved. And
obviously Daniel Day-Lewis won Best Actor for this one, which is, as you mentioned, one of the best performances ever, and very worthy of that win. So for me, this is very, very, very solidly number 2 on my list. I'm biased to Magnolia, but this could be 1 and 1A for me.
Boring answer, but this is my number 1.
I know, same. I wish.
I think it's probably the right answer, though.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, art is subjective, and there having Magnolia as number one is not wrong, at all. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, it is number one for me as well.
So after 2007, we move on to his 2012 release, which is The Master. Synopsis here. Freddie, a volatile, heavy drinking veteran who also suffers from PTSD, finds some semblance of a family when he stumbles onto the ship of Lancaster Dodd, the charismatic leader of a new religion he forms after World War II. This is another one I rewatched very recently. And I think probably like There Will Be Blood on when I first saw this one, I don't think I appreciated it fully. For me, I know I made the point in the introduction that like, a lot of these films probably require multiple viewings to truly appreciate. For me, this one stands out as the one that probably demands multiple viewings more than any other
Yes.
PTA film. There's so much here to unpack, yes, and that you would never be able to truly appreciate after a first watch. Just like the relationship between these two, I to me, this is also one like this one I think could shift in rankings. Like it's the most movable for me. I had trouble putting it where I did, but that's probably only because I've seen it like 2 or 3 times. I think if ever watch it more, it could move up. Two of like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix in this movie are like outside of Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood, maybe like some of the best acting you will ever see in any movie.
I feel like those 3 performances belong in like PTA's like Mount Rushmore of like best performances.
No doubt.
That fourth one would be something that we could debate about, but yeah, those 3 for sure. This film specifically, I actually really connected with a lot, pretty deeply, especially as someone out there, the Navy before, like the post-service limbo. Freddie was in felt very real to me, even though that's obviously very different. That's post World War II, and this is we're in modern times now. But you go from like living inside structure and routine to suddenly having none of it, and you're just expected to figure out who you are on your own, and that pull towards Philip Seymour Hoffman's character to me didn't feel like looking for something that's like that he needed to believe in as far as like religion goes, but so much as wanting direction, like purpose, and someone to tell you where you fit again. But it's also obviously a commentary on organized religion itself, specifically Scientology. But the film, to me, really nailed that sense of restlessness and disconnection for me. It keeps you at a distance emotionally, but that distance also feels very intentional, and in a way makes the experience even more honest. But yes, I agree with you, Spenser. It's one of those movies that grows richer with each viewing. So I'm looking forward to like actually like just re-examine this film, again in the future.
Yeah, I definitely need to rewatch it. I've only seen it the one time. Obviously, the performances of Joaquin and Philip Seymour Hoffman jump out. And then I think just the kind of like cult mentality and
Yes.
obviously like someone who's lost, as Miguel mentioned, turning to a group of people who seem to have the answers. You just have to go through the right steps and procedures to unlock those answers. And then, that end scene or one of the scenes towards the end with the book, I think there was the book release, and Laura Dern's character is sitting down with Philip
Yes.
Seymour Hoffman, and she calls out the kind of inconsistency or change that he had made in the book to their onboarding sequence. That just struck me immediately, and it's like that's how a lot of these organized cults or other organizations operate is conveniently changing the rules or the beliefs.
Whatever fits their narrative, their current narrative. Yeah. Yes.
And he just like snaps at her and shuts her down immediately. Like when she's questioning about it, he's basically just like, fuck off.
Yeah. Like no one.
That's what it is.
I think, I guess, maybe we're supposed to understand from that point on, it's like the group embraces that new way of things, right? Rather than continuing to challenge it, they're going to just go along with that being the way things are.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see just the absurdity that comes along with some of these, especially the more extreme cults, with just the stuff that they're asking Freddie to do, like walking back and forth in the room and touching the wall and describing how it feels, and for just hours and hours on end, for seemingly no purpose at all. And like you just like you feel for Freddie in that moment, because he's reacting how any normal person would react, where he's just like getting so frustrated. He's just like, it's a wall, it's a wall. It's a
and then it is interesting seeing like he was interacting with Amy Adams' character in that sequence of her asking him to imagine her eyes changing colors, and then you do visually see that happening, kind of signifying like he's bought into whatever their way of viewing things is.
Yeah.
Seemingly, yeah.
Yeah. Seemingly.
I struggled with where to put this one. I feel like it's probably one that will move up over time, but I have it at number 6 right now, even though it's very strong.
I have it at 7, and I think this would be one of those ones where it's so close, and I would have it tied with Punch Drunk Love for me.
I have it at number 4, but I think the top 7 are just so strong that, especially like from 4 to 7, they're all just very strong, and I hate to actually give them like a lower ranking, but also strong. So
I also think some of his weaker movies could easily be in the top of someone else's filmography.
No question about it.
Yeah. Like, I think we can all agree that there is no bad film here.
No, agreed. Yep. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Inherent Vice, 2014. In Los Angeles at the turn of the 1970s, drug-fueled detective Doc Sportello investigates the disappearance of an ex-girlfriend. So I just viewed this one for the first time very recently. I think I honestly had been a little bit swayed by the reviews and the critics, and hearing that it's not his strongest. It seems like people don't like this one as much, and I had heard that before I watched it, so I just, for whatever reason, avoided it. But I actually found myself really liking this. I thought it was, I was laughing a lot. I thought it was funny. It's quite absurd. The performances are good. I think, I think it's one of those, like, this to me sort of is the example of the point you just made, Miguel, where it's like, if this were any other, some other directors, it could be like their masterpiece, but in PTAs, it's probably not quite as strong. But I did enjoy this one more than I thought when I was going into it. I think just because of how funny it was, and just like absurd and ridiculous what it was. And this is also another one that's adapted from a Thomas Pynchon novel, Inherent Vice, which I have not read, so I don't know how true or faithful it is to the book.
I heard it was very faithful.
Okay, so One Battle is the other Pynchon novel that he adapted from, which is very different, I think. But yeah, to me, it's a perfectly enjoyable movie.
I would say for me, this was one of the ones where I immediately, upon the credits rolling, realized I needed to rewatch it. I did get lost a number of times, and I know that that's part of it, is kind of playing into the
Yeah.
counterculture and hippie vibe of things, and sort of throwing you into that confusion. But it also definitely had some gems. Like they made several jokes about him being a hippie. There was a
Yes.
scene with like the girl giving him the credit card, and she was like, "Don't hippies have them?" That was funny to me. And then Jade, that character by Hong Chow, I believe,
Yeah.
she was so funny, and like every time she was on screen was just, I was like, oh my gosh, what craziness is about to unfold with her.
Yeah, and then like Doc's character is he's obviously like stoned basically throughout the entire movie. So I think he has this perception, or he comes across to others as like he's just this stoner hippie kind of loser guy, but he's actually very smart, and like his ability to actually operate as a detective is impressive. So he's actually very good at what he's doing, but the situations he gets, and he uncovers this kind of bigger kind of conspiracy that's actually going on. So like that element of it is funny, but everyone's, it's kind of a commentary on that time as well.
I didn't like this movie as much as you guys did, but it's probably the PTA movie I struggled with the most, and the story just never fully clicks for me. But like you said, Nick, I should just like rewatch it again. And and the intentional confusion kept me like at an arm's length emotionally. But that said, I really admire the technical side of it. I mean, as soon as you press play, it's just everything about it. The thing about it was just so gorgeous, just beautiful. The lighting, it's just visually, it's just probably one of his best films visually, which I didn't say about mention when we were talking about The Master, which is also just so beautiful to look at. But yes, Inherent Vice is also one of those just really beautiful films.
One sort of Easter egg that I caught that I thought was pretty fun is, PTA's partner is Maya Rudolph, and he had cast her as in a reception role in the film. But also her mom is a singer from that era, so they had her song playing in the background as they were. I don't know if they were introduced.
Oh wow,
yeah, Minnie Riperton's song. So fun Easter egg.
That is a cool Easter egg. Yeah, I had no idea. I knew that they were married in real life, but yeah, having that song is cool detail.
And Miguel, I don't know if it is as high on my list. It's actually my last place movie, number 10.
I actually have it at 7.
I have it at 9.
Yeah, that's probably, it's, consensus seems to be it's one of the weaker of his filmography. But like I said, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would going into it. Okay, let's move on to Phantom Thread, 2017. Renowned dressmaker Reynolds Woodcock and his sister Cyril are at the center of British fashion in the 1950s London. Dressing royalty, movie stars, heiresses, socialites, and debutantes, women come and go in Woodcock's life, providing the confirmed bachelor with inspiration and companionship. His carefully tailored existence soon gets disrupted by Alma, a young and strong-willed woman who becomes his muse and lover. So I will say I basically watched this back-to-back with There Will Be Blood. I cannot believe this is the same actor. Just speaking to Daniel Day-Lewis' performance, that is just a remarkable. Just watching those back to back, that I can't believe that's the same person. Yeah, I think for me, what resonated, having seen this the second time, this is, I think, another one that very clearly requires at least 2 times watching before you can truly appreciate it. I feel like this movie is. Like what this movie is about is explained early on in the film. Reynolds is having a conversation with Cyril, his sister, where he's sharing with her how he's starting to have dreams about his mother.
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously his mother is kind of has been a central figure in his life. We know no background. It's never explained. I guess she's probably dead. I think that can be assumed. But as far as their relationship, there's no, other than the fact that we know that she taught him the craft of dressmaking. We don't know anything about their relationship. But I think that's sort of is kind of what this movie is about. You kind of see that play out in the tumultuous relationship that he develops with Alma.
I
Yeah.
loved this
Go
movie,
ahead, Nick.
and I thought visually it was maybe one of his strongest. Obviously, some of the high style and like polish that it has, and obviously necessitated with just him in that sort of industry. Loved it. I loved some of the tension that they were building with Alma's character, and I think it was her debut role, was it not?
Yeah, I don't know what else she's in Vicky Creeps.
Yeah, and
She
that to
was
me
so
was
good in
such
this
a
movie.
strong performance.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I don't think like not that many people can steal or steal a movie or a scene from Daniel Day-Lewis, but like she was right there.
There's a specific scene that like sticks out to me where I can't recall exactly, but like they're sitting down together, just she and Reynolds, and she's just getting so frustrated with like his rigidity and like routine. And I just, the way she reacted in that moment, she's like kind of fumbling over her words, but she's expressing frustration that I felt to me so real and relatable, and like how you would have with any argument with someone close to you where you're expressing frustration. Yes, she's so believable, especially in that moment.
I also found like there was funny moments in this movie too.
Yes.
There's a
very
scene
much
where
so.
she's like dragging her teeth on the silverware, and it's like
Yes.
grating him, and his face and reaction is so like disgusted and horrified. And this was, I think, after they either engaged or married or whatever. So
yeah.
their relationship kind of flourished in that way, but then he's like becoming disgusted with her in this other way. Yeah, there was just so many little funny moments and instances throughout the movie.
Yeah, I just really love this movie. Like on the surface, like it's very elegant and controlled, but like underneath all of it, it's kind of like it's actually very twisted. It's
Yes.
a twisted romance. It's a power struggle between the two, but like right when you start thinking that Alma would break and start conforming to like what Daniel Day-Lewis' character like wants in a partner, almost like silencing them. She gets the upper hand, and she does things that that are unconventional.
I think
to get what she would want from a partner.
And I'm curious if you guys kind of had this at like one of your top moments, but them retrieving the dress from.
Oh yeah.
I don't recall who the character
yes.
was one of the best sequences. And I think that was one of the first times where he kind of like gave in to her sort of energy.
Yes.
But obviously her kind of recognizing that his craft was so important to him and not having his like name and brand besmirched being so important to him. But that whole moment from then on was like incredible.
What do you guys?
Obviously, the very ending scene kind of reveals what we as the viewer don't know, or at least for me, right? Like you sort of see that Reynolds is in on this whole thing, and that's why I think it very much requires that second viewing, because if you go into it knowing that, you can sort of pick up on additional details. Like I think it's their relationship is. It illuminates so much more about their relationship, because you sort of, at least when I first watched it, you're kind of like don't understand what's going on between them, and you're like, why does she keep doing this? But but then obviously the end, it's revealed, which makes this a little bit of a twist.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say, like, I struggle with this one though. I have it while very like this is another one that I think it's one of the middle ones. I have it at 8. But it could be as high as like 4. I've heard, I've read and seen so many things where like people think this is his best. But
They
I think
show
that's
it
the
at the
beauty.
Alamo every year, closer to New Year's Eve.
Oh,
Because of
yeah.
the New Year's Eve scene.
Of course.
Yeah. For me, it's number 5. I ended up with number 5, but I kept going back and forth between The Master as number 4 and number 5. But yes, number 5.
I have it at 4. I also think, we talked about the kind of 2 leads in there, Daniel Day-Lewis, and the sort of interplay of those 2 characters. But even Cyril, his sister, I mean, she was such a strong role in every
Yes.
scene she had. Again, visually stunning, great sound. And
The music
again.
Yeah.
That whole New Year's Eve party, I mean, there's just so many things to talk about with it. So I was a really big fan and want to rewatch it. But yeah, I have it at 4.
Yeah, this is another one of those, like, going back to Johnny Greenwood, where you just like you see how talented and like diverse of an artist he is. Like the fact that like the music in this film, to me, so like it just feels like it's of that time. But it's so different than like the other scores for his other movies. But it's so fitting in this movie.
Yeah.
All right.
As far as Oscar nominations go, for this one, it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Leslie Manville, Best Original Score, Johnny Greenwood, and it won Best Costume Design.
Deservingly.
Yeah.
And fittingly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the only win?
Yes.
For this one? Okay. The next one, 2021, Licorice Pizza. The story of Gary Valentine and Alana Kane growing up, running around and going through the treacherous navigation of first love in the San Fernando Valley, 1973. Yeah, this one for me is, and it's like looser, I guess. Like the storyline is not as, there's not as much there as I feel like there is in a lot of other PTA films. I feel like there's not, where something like The Master, where there's so much there to unpack. I don't get that as much in this film. And I think the type of movie it is, it's like a romance. It's people who are younger. It's not as, it doesn't captivate me as much as some of his other stuff, because I tend to like the more like experimental, more, I don't know, psychologically deep narratives. And this doesn't have as much of that. I think I enjoyed it, but it's definitely towards the bottom on my list. Like when I think of this movie, like I think I will always think of that scene there are some funny moments, but the scene where they're in like the moving truck and they've run out of gas and it's like she's backing it down the hill is so good. But yeah, for me, it's just like this one doesn't hit as hard as some of his other ones.
It wasn't doing anything that his other movies didn't do already, but what it was doing wasn't as high achieving as those other movies. It got the style of the era right, but it wasn't as immersive. It got the sound and set and acting and all of it done well, but it just didn't draw you in as much. Yeah. The truck going down the hill scene stuck out. I think the motorcycle jump scene, that was another interesting moment.
Yep.
But again, the highs of this film weren't as high as his other films.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we have Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who plays the main character in this movie, which is a cool, detail. I probably nod to him having worked with Philip Seymour Hoffman through so many of his movies up to that point. So that's cool. But yeah, for me, this one is number 9, just above Heart 8.
To me, it was number 8, but now that we're talking through it, yeah, I'll keep it at number 8. But I did enjoy Heart 8 more than this, so
I have it at number 9, but yeah, I could see it being interchangeable with Heart 8 or Inherent
Yep.
Vice. Also, funny that we didn't address the one elephant in the room with the film, but we can move on from the age gap element.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yes, that is weird.
I mean, we can address it if you want.
I mean, we don't have to. I'm
I mean,
sure
it
it's
is-
been
it's-
addressed.
Well, there's a scene too in the movie where she addresses it herself, where she's like talking to her sister, and she's like, "Do you think it's weird that I'm hanging out with Gary and his 15-year-old friends?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think it's weird that I'm doing this." But that's like the only acknowledgement toward it. So yeah, it is sort of weird, especially considering how the film ends, where she's like telling him she loves him. But yeah,
Yeah,
solid number 9
yeah,
for me.
number 9.
We're not supporting.
All right, so we've arrived at the final one. One battle after another. I'm sure we may spend more time talking about this as we get through awards season. Synopsis: Bob is a washed-up revolutionary who lives in a state of stoned paranoia, surviving off-grid with his spirited and self-reliant daughter Willa. When his evil nemesis resurfaces and Willa goes missing, the former radical scrambles to find her as both father and daughter battle the consequences of their past. This is very solidly one of my favorite of 2025. I just from PTA perspective, I feel like it's his most accessible film. It's more for mass audiences probably enjoy this. More than a lot of his other films. Love the performances. I think Sean Penn's performance in this is one of my favorites in all of PTA's filmography. He's just so, he's just such a freak in this movie. It's in the weirdest and best way. But yeah, I don't know how much we want to talk about it, but it's one of my favorites of the year easily.
I would agree. Maybe the yeah, I almost find it interesting the comment about it being more accessible. I can see that, but I also can see like so many small details and like questions that I would have about the movie or the characters or why certain things played out the way they did, or even just the state of the world that's being portrayed, and how it mirrors what's maybe happening out in the real world, but then in a lot of ways there's different differences that are pretty apparent as well. So I left the movie like clear on what was being said, but I still was asking questions. So it was accessible to an extent. But
And what are these questions, Nick?
why? No, I don't know. I think the car chase scene was one of the most well-executed cat and mouse chases I've ever seen played out in a film. It didn't take like this typical movie, like Need for Speed, like high-speed chase. It was like drawn out and slow and dragging you along with it.
I will say, seeing that in a gigantic IMAX screen was quite a thrill. It was, especially that scene. Like I was almost like getting motion sickness from it because of just how, you're like going over and through those hills. Yeah, that was a very, car chase scenes are done to death, but I felt like that was like a totally new and unique perspective and way to shoot one of those scenes, which was really fun, really well done.
Yeah, it's something that only Paul Thomas Anderson can do. Like,
Right.
I think it's just the perfect way to end a film in that, car scene. Obviously there's still like 15 or so minutes after that movie, but it's just that scene itself elevated an incredibly uh, well-made movie already. It's One Battle After Another is definitely one of my favorite films of 2025 and is up there as far as Paul Thomas Anderson filmography goes.
This one comes in for me at number 4.
This one for me is number 2.
I also have it at number 2. Alrighty. Thank you so much for joining the Cinephile Mind on this Paul Thomas Anderson retrospective. We hope you enjoyed it. Please check out more of our content coming soon and hit us up on social media at The Cinephile Mind, as well as our website, thecinephilemind.com.